Hi, in today's video I'm going to explain the absolute basics of rigging and weight painting, mainly weight painting. It's kind of the most difficult topic when it comes to 3D modeling for VRChat, I think. And it takes a lot of time to understand, so don't be frustrated and mad at yourself if you don't understand fast, because it takes time. For me, it also took a lot of time to understand how this works, even remotely. The joke is that you don't understand anything, and then one day you wake up and you kind of get it. It like clicks. It is kind of that way. So I wish you all the best, and let me know what you think about the tutorial and if you have any questions. The first thing that we need to do is to set up Blender a little bit, because the default settings are not ideal. So the first thing you need to do, always check this before you weight paint anything. Go into your little window here. Go to Tool, change your mode to Weight Paint mode, and then click Options in the tool here, and click Auto-Normalize. If you don't do this, it's gonna get really weird. You're not gonna make any sense of it. Just do it. If you want to know what this actually does, I'm not gonna go over it here. Just Google it, because this is like, oh my god, dude. Like, if I knew this like a year ago, it would be much easier. So just do this, man. And the second thing is more like a quality of life thing. So you go into edit in your preferences. Let me drag this here, and you go into weight paint in the editing part of the settings, and you see your colors are gonna look different. For you, it's gonna go from blue to red, and I have it set up this way, and I'll tell you why. In the default settings, it's very difficult to see sometimes when you have zero weight somewhere and when you have 0.0001, for example. We want to prevent that, so we clearly know where we have one weight, which is here, and no weight at all, which is 0, which is right here. And you can see how I have these like buttons created, and oh, there we go. You can see, let me click on the purple one. It's quite difficult, so don't be frustrated at this. You basically add a bunch of new ones using the plus buttons, and then you drag them around, and then you change the colors to what you want. I recommend using the same colors as I do, so you can follow the tutorial pretty accurately. So basically you set up your 0 to a purple, you set up your number 1, let me check this, your number 1 to white, then you create these two ones using the plus button. I'm gonna undo, and you drag it, or you can also change the value here to 0.99, and the pink one to 0.01. And this will make it so the colors are very recognizable when we have absolute 1 and when we have absolute 0 on your settings. What I also recommend is go into your preferences and go into the key map tab and change the spacebar action to search. Now what this will do, you'll press your spacebar and you can look for things. Like, for example, all these different functions that you can look for. It's much faster, much more useful in practice, I think. So I highly recommend you to do this as well. So with that, I'm gonna continue with my tutorial. And let us first assume that this little object is gonna be a ring. So I'm gonna do a little pro gamer move here. I'm gonna push my L on my keyboard, push S to scale it on Y, pushing the Y button. I'm gonna put it literally over this bone, and this bone is going to be our finger bone, and this is gonna be the ring that we want to move with the finger absolutely. So the first part we're gonna be learning is how to weight paint stuff to one bone, which is quite easy. And it's not difficult at all. So first thing we need to do, we need to tether the actual armature, the skeleton. Or actually, never mind. We need to tell the mesh that it's going to be influenced by the armature, by the skeleton. Because if we don't do it, it doesn't know that it needs to be moved with it. So we go into your mesh, you go into the modifier properties, you add armature, and you select your armature. You can do drag and drop here. And now it's gonna move with the armature. The thing is, it doesn't know how to do it, so we need to tell it how to do it. For that, we create object data properties and vertex groups. Now this group has no meaning currently, it doesn't do anything. And for weight painting, you need to create group for every bone that you want to influence your model, your mesh. So in this case, I'm gonna click my armature, click tab to get into edit mode, and select this bone. And this bone is called bone number 2. So, and I wanted to mesh to move with bone number 2. So I'm gonna go back in object mode, select my mesh again, and I'm gonna rename this, or you can also create new ones. I'm gonna rename this to bone 2. And I go to my weight paint mode, and now I'm editing weight painting on my bone 2 for this mesh. So what is the easiest for me, I think, is to change into the wireframe, so I can actually see all the, vertices and such. I'm gonna zoom in. And how do you actually tell Blender what to move, like what way and such, which is difficult to explain and difficult to understand. So I'm gonna go really, really thoroughly into this. We use the colors, the weights that we said before, and it goes from 0 to 1. 0 meaning no influence at all, 1 meaning absolute influence, like 100% influenced by this bone, this vertex group. And you can see that here I have the purple color, which we set in our preferences is 0. So it doesn't move with the vertex group at all. It doesn't move with anything, in fact, right now. So how do we actually change it? There's multiple ways of you can do this. You can pick your draw tool, and you can set the weight here, and you can literally just paint. And you can see how I left click and paint, and it changes all the vertices to absolute ones and gradients into 0. So I can actually test this right now, and I'm gonna see how just these vertices are gonna be influenced. So I'm gonna go into object mode. I'm gonna go select my armature and go into pose mode. Left click bone number 2, and I'm gonna move it around. And you can see how it actually moves what I painted. So I'm gonna go back into my weight paint mode. And when you wanna paint like a big chunk of a mesh, you don't necessarily wanna do it by hand at all. So for that we have the gradient tool. And the gradient tool works that you can literally just click and drag. But you see it's changing these different meshes that we want, these different parts of mesh that we don't want to change. So I Control Z to, cancel. And there's these two little functions, which are super useful, the masking. So I'm gonna left click this one, and you can see I can literally select faces to paint over. And if you click this little select box, you can actually click and drop and select different faces. And also if you just push your L key on your keyboard, it selects all the connected mesh. So that's what we're gonna do now. I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna click out here. I'm gonna push my L key, and this part is selected. So now I can go back to my gradient, and I can paint the whole thing. And you can see how the first try it didn't do perfectly. So it this is probably 0.5, this is 0.8, and we want it to be 1, absolutely moved only by this bone. So I'm gonna do it again and a bunch of times until I see perfect white. And I'm gonna show you. See how you have these little splashes of red, which means it's not absolute 1. For example, if you had the default Blender colors, you would not be necessarily able to see it because it blends the colors so closely. It's super difficult to see sometimes. So this is why you do the color settings that I recommended. Now that we have this painted, let's see how it works in pose mode again. I'm gonna pose my little bone here and see how the whole thing moves with it. Very nice. And what can sometimes happen is that, for example, you have different groups here. see, let's name this bone 1 and bone, because we have these bones are called bone 1, and you have like all these weird weights. For example, I'm gonna just randomly change my weight to like 0. This, change it to 1, I'm gonna do this, and here I'm gonna do this. And you don't have to do this, by the way, this is only to show you what can happen. And you're gonna pose your bone and it's gonna be doing like weird deforms like this, and you're gonna be confused, like, why is this happening? Like, this is weird, I didn't do this, what the hell? So I recommend you to like just go into weight paint mode and click through all the different groups, and you can see, yes, I don't want this weight to be here and also not here, so I need to fix it. So what you do is you can take your gradient and set it to 0. You can also paint 0, like remove weights. So I'm gonna do it right here multiple times so I can clearly see it's on the 0. And on the other part, the other bone, and see everything's fixed back. And our bone is at number 0 and number 1. Let's change it here, and you can see how everything works pretty well. So how do we make this so it bends with 2 bones? Let's presume this little thing here is an arm, and I want this, for example, to be like a, I don't know, like an armband, and it's gonna be, I'm gonna rescale it, put it here, and let's say we want it to bend right here. So we need to tell Blender to apply some weights on this bone and some weights on this bone. So we already have, because we can see here, the paint set up on this bone, the bone number 2, and bone number 1 is this one, and we need to add some weights here as well. You're gonna see, as we have Auto-Normalise on, that as we paint colors on weights on this bone, it's gonna change it on the bone number 2 as well. So click bone number 1 group, and you can see there's no weights yet at all. So I'm gonna actually draw some, and I'm gonna do it by hand actually this time, and you can see through that the bone is right here. So I'm gonna paint it just about here, like all around the whole thing. It's gonna take a while, so be patient. And I also need to paint this area. Oh, it's too much. You can also push your F key on your keyboard and just resize your brush. It's gonna paint the whole thing. Okay, now we're gonna take a look at the bone number 2 again, and you can see how this changed. There's no weights on this part, that's how we want it, and there's like a mixed weight here. What Blender does essentially, it takes into account the weights applied to each bone and calculates how much each bone have influence over the faces or the vertices, which are the the points. So you can see here, oh, I didn't want to do that. You can see here that there's like mixed colors. So we're gonna open the preferences again to see for reference. So the green in the middle represents approximately 0.5. So we can see both bones have like 50% or more or less influence over the center. And we can test this in practice. We go object mode, select the armature, and pose mode, and R, and just move things. You can see how it bends, but it's not perfect. we want it better. So we can make that a bit more smooth. So we go to weight paint again. And there's a bunch of options you can use for this, like blur and average. If you click average, you can actually like smoothen colors much better. Like this. Which is gonna produce a bit better result. Can also use smear, but smear is more for like doing this, for example, like dragging the colors to a different to a specific direction like this. So let's see how this looks now with like a bit of blurring. It's a bit better, but it's not like, it's not 100%. You can see also here. The thing is, weight painting is a bit of an art. So to make stuff look super clean, super nice, actually takes a lot of practice. So let me there's a function you can do. Reset unheat, and it's gonna go back to the normal state. There we go. You can also, when you're painting, instead of draw, you can also do add. For example, if you want a little bit of weight somewhere, like 0.1, you can add and click, and you're gonna add constantly only 0.1, unless you release your mouse and click again, and you're gonna get again 0.1. You can stack it. The same works for subtract, which you can like delete 0.1. You can also multiply, mix, lighten, darken. I never used lighten and darken. Let's see what it does, because I have no clue. Very interesting, very cool. I have no idea what it does, but yes. Mainly use draw or add or subtract. So let's say we want this to be like all around perfect 0.5. So we just put the number here, and we paint it by hand. You're gonna see it's gonna be much smoother. Also, if you want to pick a color, pick a weight, you can also do that. There's this little tool, sample weight. Just click it. You click here. And now you go back to your brush, and you can see it selected the weight. So I'm gonna paint it all the way here. It's gonna smoothen things a lot more. There we go. Also, I want to add one to like these areas. I'm just gonna quickly smoothen everything out. And also, I'm saying it again, if you change the colors the way I do, you can see all these little, problems. Much better than in the usual setting, the Blender default setting. There you go. This is very nice. I'm also gonna sample weights in here. Again, this little tool, just click. 0.176, and I'm gonna paint. Oh, that's a lot though. Not sure I want that. Let me do that again. Let me do it here. Okay, that's a bit more. It's giving me a lot of weight. Interesting. Not what I want. What if I click here? 2.44. That's a lot of weight. Maybe I can do it on this little side, which should be like 0 point something, right? No, this is 0. Okay. Sometimes it's a bit of a detective work. Yeah, there we go. This is what I wanted. And I don't want add. I want to draw my weight. But that's too little. So I actually draw. I select again. Let's see. Let's say I click here. Yeah, that's the color I wanted. Like, as you can see, I'm also like not 100% because weight painting is a lot of experimenting, a lot of trying stuff out. Don't be frustrated, like literally everybody has gone through this. You know, it's like, it's very difficult, it's very frustrating, so, you know, just, it's kind of like just, you just kind of spend your day practicing and suddenly you just understand a lot more. It is what it is. So now we can see how the weights are painted. You know, it looks pretty clean to me. You can see, check on the other bone as well, it's pretty clean. There's a little mistake here, which we can actually fix. There we go. That's very nice though. So let us pick our pose mode again and pose this bone. And you can see, you know, it's getting deformed really nicely. That's very nice. Let me show you in this mode. Yeah, it looks like a, I don't know, a sock or whatever. It's very nice. And also, when you don't, when it's like, when it looks too choppy to you and you think your weights are right, and this takes like experience actually to be able to like kind of decide if you need to adjust your weights or do what I'm about to tell you. So, you know, just don't worry about it, like practice. You can add topology. You go into edit mode, and for example, you think that you need some more nice bending here, you just add an edge loop. You just add it here, and for example here as well, and you go back into your pose mode and you check again, and you're like, well, actually, you know, this looks a bit better. You know, it might be like, you can see it actually looks a bit, it bends a bit better because it has to bend on something, right? You don't have to, you cannot have like two edge loops and think it's gonna bend like in, you know, as your finger does. So yeah, you can see it's a bit more, it's a bit smoother. So sometimes you when it comes to like all these bendy areas like armpits, you know, elbows, wrists, also knees, sometimes you need to add a little bit geometry to your model so it bends nicely. That's my experience anyway. So yeah. And you can also, in your pose mode, that this is a good trick, you can pose your bone in your pose mode and weight paint in it. You can actually see where you have like issues in bending and such, and you can actually fix them. Like I can show you, like I can literally paint. Now this can be kind of tricky, but you know, sometimes you have like, I'm just gonna furiously paint. You have like these weird issues, and you know, posing your bone in different poses is gonna show these issues quite well, and then you can paint over them. Thank you for watching this video. Let me know what you think. I wish you all the best weight painting, and I'll see you in the next video.